Welcome to week 2. This is a game preview episode of Rams versus Atlanta Falcons. I am Gilbert Manzano, Rams beat reporter for the OC Register, LA Daily News. And as always, joining me, Victor Corona, Victor producer. Victor, that was a ugly week 1 season opener for the Rams. But like I mentioned, we're here on week 2 for House of Horns. We're looking forward, maybe a little back to just see what happened. But we're moving forward here for this matchup between the Rams and the Falcons at SoFi Stadium. 2 home games to start for the defending Super Bowl champions. But Victor, before we get to talking football, I'm gonna say I enjoyed having the weekend off. I know getting to a Thursday night football game for week 1 is a lot of pressure, short week, a lot of season previews. It was hectic, but I gotta say I loved kicking back on a Sunday, chilling, enjoying my time. I don't know how about for you, Victor?
Oh, I loved it, man. It was great to just. Although, let me before I get into it, I enjoyed it. It was nice. It was a good time for me on a Sunday just to be able to relax and not have to, watch and concentrate on covering the Rams. But one of the things that happened to me was my Fire Stick. I'm one of the people who decided to cut my cable. I'm a cord cutter, and so I decided that I'm gonna get a Fire Stick, and that's the way I'm gonna go. Well, Saturday, I'm trying to get ready to watch the big UFC fights, and my Fire Stick goes out, and I had it off for almost 2 days until I finally figured out what was wrong with it on Sunday night. So luckily, I had an antenna as a backup, so I was able to watch some of the local games. But outside of that, I just enjoyed it. It was good to just watch football, sit back, and just relax. So I'm sure, with what you told me, I know how it is. And I looked at the schedule, and in 2 weeks, that happens again for you. Like you get to relax again on a Sunday. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of downsides to cutting the cord. Well, the big side is, you save your money, you don't have to worry about that, and it's just like for me, I kind of went through it too because uh, I do the antenna for the local TV, so I'm okay with the channel 2 or CBS and Fox. When it goes to NBC channel 4, I tried the Peacock route to streaming it, but it kept buffering in and out, and I hated it. Maybe it's my bad Wi-Fi. My part. We keep always talking about Fernando's bad Wi-Fi. It could have been mine, Victor here. But also when I was watching the ESPN broadcast, I was streaming it too for Monday Night Football. A lot of buffering. So you're behind, you're buffering. But I think me having the TV, the games at least being on my screen was better than what you went through and not having it at all. But these are just first world problems, Victor.
Yes.
We'll be fine. We'll manage. And I don't want to get too far ahead without saying or promoting our big guest of the week. D. Orlando
Yes.
Ledbetter of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. He is a Falcons beat reporter, and let me say, D dropped the knowledge. I can't wait to play that interview. And I know Rams fans who are listening, they want to just hear a lot about the Rams, but you got to get to know the opposing team. And there's
Oh
no
yeah.
one better than D because he's been covering the Falcons since 2005. He kept it real. That was a great interview. And Victor, I know you enjoyed it. And that's why we do House of Horns game previews. Like we gave our point of view, we give our analysis. You and I have different perspective, but we don't got that Falcon side or the opposing
Oh.
team. And D brought the energy, and I can't wait to play that later on in the show.
Yeah, and he gave us great insight. I mean, we were able to. That's one of the cool things about having a guest on is you get the perspective of the opposing team. And like I went and I looked at the game twice. I watched that Falcons game twice, and even after gaining some perspective from watching the game, asking him, like he just went into some of the stuff that like little details that I had no clue about. So yeah, it's a great interview. You guys, need to check it out because man, we got some good stuff from D.
Yeah, and not just that, Victor. We should plug all the shows before we start getting
Yeah,
into news and notes here.
Ye-
House of Horns. We got what do we have? A COMPAS and B. I don't know. You
yeah,
remember? You take it away,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, we got yesterday Compas on the Beat drop. We have some great stuff on there. We have a new segment called the Bury of the Week,
Yeah.
where that Dan came up with. You know, he got a shovel and everything. So that was it was fun. We had Kirk's picks, which you have to check out. You know, my one eye cat. He's out there. You know, making picks, going up against the big boys like Gilbert and Fernando and Dan. We also have Combat Compas. It's always a tongue twister with
Yeah.
Combat Compas. Episode 6. The guys they went and they interviewed Brian Salmon and what's the other guest? Like
Sam Gordon of the Las Vegas
Sam
region.
Gordon. There we go. So they're getting you ready for the big fight, Triple G, Canelo. Mexican Independence Day, like Fernando says, it's not Cinco de Mayo. So make sure you're subscribed, you're following. You're giving us those 5 stars because we have a lot, and you also have. I know a lot of Rams fans aren't interested, might not be interested in this, but we have What's Up Bolts with Fernando and Dan and Dago. They'll have the post game show. So that's what we got on the Compas on the Beat Network. How does that sound to
Yeah,
you,
there you
Gilbert?
go. I love it, man. You gotta keep saying Compass on the Beat Network. We have a whole bunch of shows here. We're expanding. Obviously, if you're watching, you're probably a Rams fan. House of Horns. Hopefully we're doing a good job. We're gonna keep getting better and providing you content for your favorite team. But I always say this. I know you don't care if you're a Rams fan about the Chargers, but you probably have a Justin Herbert, a Keenan Allen who was not playing on Thursday, or Mike Williams on your fantasy football team, and you have some interest there. That's the beauty about fantasy football, Victor. That's what made football bigger. As I think you're always mentioning that you're always watching games. It could be a garbage game, but you have a player on the
Mhm.
fantasy team. So watch what's up both because not only do you get the Chargers point of view, you get the opposing team point of view, and you probably got a player on the Chiefs too. So there you go. I'm trying to sell this. Watch it all.
Yeah.
House of Horns because you get the Falcons, Rams, Chiefs, Chargers in 1 week, and then by the way, Compas on the Beat. We were talking about the league there, the full 32 teams there. So you want some advice and some fun banter at the same time while we review Cobra Kai or whatever. It's all there too. So yes, it's a network. You said it, Victor. But I'm ready to get to some news and notes on the Rams.
Yeah, so we're recording on a Wednesday night. You just got back from practice and you have some dish for us. So go on and let us know what was the big spill from today.
Yeah, I'll get with the I guess the what should I want to say drama for cat makers and Sean McVay. I want to say before I get to the drama, it's good. I want to get into it really. Injuries, that's what I'm trying to say. Uh,
A lot.
yeah, it's a good amount, and most of them we already knew were coming. Brian Allen was never gonna go on IR, I think, because it could be 2 weeks, it could be 4 weeks. So he's on the injury report
Right.
too with the knee. But we already knew about Brian Allen being out this week. Coleman Shelton moving over from right guard to center. Tremaine and Trim taking over at right guard. There's a dilemma there, but the one that we got to keep an eye on because Sean McVay said he expects left tackle Joe Noteboom to play against the Falcons, but he wasn't practicing today. He was a DNP. All these guys have knee problems, by the way. Joe Noteboom has a sprained MCL. He was listed with the knee. DNP. I saw him, chilling in the weight room. He wasn't on the field. And then another one that we've been keeping tabs on, obviously, the whole time is Van Jefferson, the wide receiver. He also was a DNP with another, not another. It's a knee injury. It's
Right.
the same injury, guys. Don't freak out. But they all have knee injuries. So Van has not practiced yet. So I don't think he's gonna be ready for week 2. It's just my guess. I know we're recording on a Wednesday, like you mentioned, Victor. So don't expect Brian Allen for sure. Don't really expect Van Jefferson, and maybe on Joe Noteboom, but it's just a little concerning that he starts the week. But usually that's how it works, right? They don't practice the Wednesday. They're limited sometimes Thursday, and then get another limited in Friday, and they're questionable coming the weekend. So it could be
Right.
something like that, kind of throw people off. Not to give away your cards too soon, but the surprise on the injury report, Victor, is outside linebacker Leonard Floyd. He was limited also with a knee injury. So, maybe he's fine, maybe he's not, but that was a surprise one. And then the long snapper, I think he was also DNP. I don't want to butcher his name, Matt Orsich. There we go. I think it's Orsich. And they brought in Matt Overton, another long snapper, as a backup just in case Orsich, hopefully I'm saying it right, isn't ready to go. So he has a calf strain. Those are the injuries of the week. Now let's get to the drama. It could be called
Yeah.
news and drama segment. This one,
Dude.
Victor, and just to kind of put it down, like last week, we were all surprised about Cam Akers not entering the game. He was on the sideline. I think he didn't play until like the third drive, and even when he came in, it was very limited. He got 3 carries, 0 yards, and he was getting roasted on social media. Fantasy football, Twitter was letting him have it. They were not happy with Cam Akers, and I'll start it this way: Cam Akers was caught off guard. He did not know that he's going to have a very limited role in the game. The game plan was Darrell Henderson, Kyron Williams split in the reps 1-2. He was already third. And then Kyron Williams got hurt on the kickoff, and he went on IR with a high ankle injury, and he's out 6 to 8 weeks. He was supposed to be number 2, but he went out on the kickoff, and somehow that still didn't elevate Cam Akers into the game plan. It was very one running back base heavy with Darrell Henderson. So that tells you why wasn't, if he was third, why can't he just come in and help out in injury relief? He couldn't even get that. And then it came out the next day where Sean McVay said, we got to see more urgency from Cam Akers. He has to maximize his opportunities. We got to see more from him. That became a whole story. We requested Cam Akers to talk to us on Monday. He did not. He wasn't available, so this story kind of lingered, like what's going on. Sean McVay spoke again Wednesday and said, hey, my words maybe got taken out of context. People were trying to take it the wrong way. You guys are probably running with it, or maybe it got a lot of play. And then he was like, I don't want to blame you guys, but I just want to say I don't challenge players through the media. It felt like a challenge to me, by the way, Victor. And he just said, if you want to call it a challenge, so be it. But if it is a challenge, it's a reflection of me believing in this guy. I have a lot of confidence in this guy, and I want him to reach his potential. That's all I'm saying, okay? That's the one part for Sean McVay. And then the second part, we finally got Cam Akers in the locker room, Victor, and Cam was just smiling, didn't want to, say too much. He was kind of towing the line, and it just felt like there was a lot of disagreement. And he just said, yeah, you could call it urgent. I don't know what he means by that, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to listen to the coach. Sometimes I'm not right. I'm not always right. I got to listen to the coach here. And he just felt like, I think Sean McVay kept saying, I spoke to the guy. And when we asked, when did you guys speak? And he said a month ago. He didn't say a month ago. He said in training camp. So I think that's where the miscommunication started. I think maybe Sean McVay went to Cam in training camp like, hey, you got to pick it up, man. Give me some more urgency off that one conversation. It could be multiple conversations I really don't know. And then Cam was like, okay, let me show you something. And maybe that wasn't good enough for Sean McVay. And then Cam's mind was like, I thought I fixed it here. And they never kind of revisited. That's what it sounds like to me, Victor. And then when it came to the game plan, he wasn't involved. And the crazy part, Sean McVay said this has nothing to do with his practice habits. And Cam Akers said, I think it's because of practice. And so they're kind of in disagreement there. I don't give you the full spiel, but that's where we are. It was a lot of miscommunication, but to summarize, I think they want to get Cam Akers involved. After all the drama, I think they want to try.
Well, one of the things I noticed from the game, I know a lot of people who follow fantasy kind of brought it up, but if you look at the film, there was one of the times that he was in there, he missed a block. Like he didn't even try. It seemed like he was, maybe it got to him that he had not been playing. Darrell Henderson was getting most of the snaps, and he went in there and didn't try. And maybe that's part of the reason that McVay came out and said what he said. Now, we're not there, you are, and so that might be something to do with it. But it's just been a really strange couple of weeks between the whole Stafford elbow and the whole miscommunication with McVay, and now this. So it's starting to kind of pile up with the whole miscommunication thing, at least from where I'm standing.
Yeah, and that's my other kind of like theory there, Victor. That I'm glad you brought up the whole pass protection thing, where he let his quarterback get lit up. He missed the defender there. He looked at him, then he went the other way. Still, it was kind of a very awkward video. So when Sean McVay is saying it's not in practice, it's just things that I'm seeing. I think he was talking about that. Like he goes in because he didn't play that much, and that's something that kind of happened early in the game. And he's like, "All right, get the hell out of here, man. You're gonna do this to my quarterback. Get out of here." But then
Yeah.
the thing that's concerning was like he was already third on the depth chart for the game plan. At least I'm not saying for the whole season, just for the game plan.
Right.
So that could stem from practice, and then Sean McVay just had enough from that one blown assignment there. So yeah, it sounds like they need another conversation. Sean McVay is saying they've been speaking, but Cam Akers made it seem like they haven't spoken since training camp about the urgency part. So I don't know, Victor. It's a mess. I don't want to keep harping on this because we have to get to our guest. But
Yes.
when Sean McVay said, "I will make an effort to get him involved," that's when I thought, okay, this is done. It's whatever. There's drama, but he's gonna make an effort, and I think he has to. Kyron Williams is not out there, and then you can't just force like this. I would say this about Darrell Henderson. I know I've been kind of harsh on Darrell Henderson, but you kind of know what you get with the guy. Like he's gonna get
Oh
like
yeah.
what 12 to 15 carries, maybe 70, 80 yards, maybe a goal line touchdown. It's nothing spectacular, but he kind of moves the chains in a slow and efficient way. With Cam, like at least you get that kind of okay, it might be a big play here or just something kind of special. But I think Sean still wants to see a different level from Cam Akers. We'll see how it develops for the Falcons. But enough about the drama. We can't bury the guest. Let's get to D. Orlando Ledbetter, one of the best beat reporters in the game. 17 years covering the Falcons, so he knows the knowledge. Let's get to that interview right now. When we started the House of Horns podcast, the new podcast we had here, we had discussions. We said, hey, we need to get the best of the best guests, the best beat reporters, and I think we delivered this week. For sure we did. So introducing our special guest of the week, D. Orlando Ledbetter, Falcons beat writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. D, welcome to the show. And I was just on your show, the Bow Tie Chronicles. Thank you for having me on the show. But how does it feel to be on this show, and how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm grateful to be on the House of Horns today, Gilbert. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to a great discussion about this upcoming football game between the two teams we cover, the Atlanta Falcons and the defending Super Bowl champion, Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, I love that. It should be a good, exciting week 2 matchup, D. But before we get to some football, I want to get to know you a little bit. Like I keep telling you, I've been following your work for many years. First of all, how long you been covering the Falcons as a beat reporter? How you always been at the newspaper here at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution? Hopefully I keep getting that right. I know it's a long name. But D, how long you been there? And when did you start first rocking the bow tie?
Yeah, I started rocking that back in law school in the late '90s, but been at the AJC since '03 and been on the Falcons beat since '05. 17th season covering them. I had a background with the Bengals and with the Packers. Covered the Packers for most of the '90s, but been here in Atlanta since 2000 and at the paper since '03 and covering the Jim Mora Falcons. Michael Vick, Matt Ryan, Bobby Petrino, Mike Smith, Dan Quinn, and now Arthur Smith as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons.
Look at that. You've seen it all. Going back, I think 17 years now, if my math is correct. So I'm glad we have you on the show to talk Atlanta Falcons. But D, in those 17 years, I'm sure you've covered a lot of one-score games, blown leads, nail biters, all that, and they just had one in the Week 1 opener for the 2022 season against the rival New Orleans Saints. I know it was a kind of a strange game. They looked good for the first 3 quarters. They got a lead, but they let us slip away. Kind of the reoccurring theme. How's the mood in the locker room? How's the mood around the team? Because do they take a moral victory? Because a lot of people count them out early and they only lost by a point, or is it kind of like the same old taste? Here we go again, blown leads.
Yeah, it's a young team and it's a new. Only a couple players left from the Super Bowl team, 3, and 1 is on IR. So it's not the same war as me type of deal that we saw kind of creep in 19 when they blew a couple back to back like this after the Super Bowl and so forth. So it's the new approach to a blown lead is that they are taking credit for the 3 quarters here, that they did come out and play ball for 3 quarters and just, hey, we got to expand on that. That seems to be the theme as you talk to a lot of the guys on Monday and Sunday after the game. they were going to take their credit for the pass rush and being able to run the ball, even though they needed one more yard. And for some reason, I still can't figure out why you're averaging 5.5 yards a carry and you don't run the ball on 4th and 1 to ice the game. But coach, defending his decision to not do that. That's just where they're at here in Atlanta, trying to move forward, knowing they're going to get the Rams' best shot.
Hey D, I was rewatching the game this morning, and one of the things that stood out, like you just talked about, was the run game, that offensive line. I was really impressed with Cordarrelle Patterson. The way I had no idea that he could run inside the tackles like he did against the Saints. How impressed were you by that offensive line going in? And then Cordarrelle Patterson, how are they using him differently in Atlanta that they're able to feature him more?
Yeah, because he, everybody knows he came in as a wide receiver and morphed into a kick returner and was one of the game's top kick returners. And then Bill Belichick put him in the backfield. That was the first person to do it. And the Falcons are just expanding on that. With the type of runs, straight ahead type runs, not a lot of pitches, tosses, and sweeps and stuff. Just get into a spot, and he can cut back if he doesn't like the spot, and he can swerve around defenders if he has to do that. He made Demario Davis miss. A little bit more elusive for a bigger back than you would think. So, and they're just in a place where they got to maximize their talent across the board. And so, you find yourself basically with a wide receiver as your top running back.
Can you also expand on the offensive line? Were you impressed by the offensive line? I mean, they gave up no sacks, and they had over 200 yards rushing.
Yes, I was impressed with the line. That was one of our 5 things we learned on Sunday, was that the offensive line came to play. They jumped up in the Saints' grill and moved them around a little bit. But I'm tempered because I know that Arthur Smith is really great at design and scheming up some things that may last or may not last. So I don't know if this was one of those things where the angles were just right and they hit it, or I need to see it again. I need to see it over and over for me to say, okay, is this real or Memorex? But I definitely was impressed in those 3.5 quarters of running football. But if you really got a powerful running game and it's 4th and 1, you're gonna go run it. And
yeah.
So it was something there that gave him pause to not do it. And that's the only thing that's tempering my excitement for the work of that line. You got Jake Matthews at left tackle, Elijah Wilkinson at left guard, a new center, Drew Dahlman from Stanford, is taking over from Matt Hennessy, and Chris Lindstrom, right guard from Boston College, and then Caleb McGarry, a kid from the Pac-10 out there, the old Pac-10. I think it's 12 now. It might be 16. Yeah. I don't know.
It used to be 8.
Yeah, it used to be 8. But yeah, Caleb McGarry from the University of Washington didn't get his 5th-year option picked up, but he was billed as a run blocker when he got here, and but then Matt Ryan, they had to pass a lot because they were behind. He couldn't do it. He couldn't handle the elite speed, but one of my guys here in Atlanta, Big Chuck Smith, he trains the defensive lineman and so forth, former, member of the 98 Falcons and so forth. He told me today that even McGarry was out there throwing hands. He didn't get them all the time, but he was out there throwing them. So that's an upgrade for the Atlanta Falcons, that he's at least getting to some people, and, did a great job there against the Saints. So that's something you want to travel. You can run the ball on for 200 yards. You should be able to do that. I mean, they know it's coming, but that's the sign of a good team, and that's where Arthur Smith comes from Tennessee. I don't see a Derrick Henry on the roster, though, but it's the same type of attitude that you want to play with, and they certainly came out and did that against the Saints on Sunday.
Well, one of the big boys, right, and one of the big boys they have is rookie Drake London, who's coming home. He played at USC. He's from Moore Park out here. He looks the part. What do you think?
Yeah, I like Drake. He did a great job in the offseason, but I know, the offseason, the OTAs and so forth, they had him running a lot of out routes and in breaking stuff. TJ Watts, who is the TJ Yates, I'm sorry. TJ Watts is another lineman there in Pittsburgh. But TJ Yates, the Falcons wide receivers coach, he said, London can get open deep. We just haven't seen that part. We didn't see that a lot in practice. But he came in the game. He had the knee injury, and he played. He had 5 catches for 74 yards. Looked good. Showed some ability to make some yards after the catch. He's going to be open because teams are doubling Kyle Pitts. And so he made some plays when the ball came his way against the Saints. And folks here in Atlanta are used to having elite receivers, and they're ready to welcome Drake London into that group.
We spoke about this on the Bowtie Chronicles. I gave you my point of view of the Rams' banged up offensive line. So I got to hear yours on the Falcons pass rush. It starts with Grady Jarrett. What can you tell me about how they use Grady Jarrett? Can you tell me more about the rest of the guys? I feel like I'm just honing in on one guy, the star player, but can this pass rush or this front seven for the Falcons utilize or capitalize on the banged up Rams offensive line with no center, a banged up left tackle, and they just gave up 7 sacks to Von Miller and the Bills? What have you seen from this pass rush?
Yeah, the Falcons were able to get 4 sacks against the Saints, none late when they needed them, and 8 quarterback hits on the Saints. So they were able to fluster Jameis early, but couldn't get to him late. Grady Jarrett, your main guy up front. Lorenzo Carter was brought in as a free agent from the Giants to help rush from the outside linebacker spot. Audie Ogundeji is another outside linebacker they like. But Audie hasn't had a lot of production. He played a lot as a rookie and didn't get there last week either. Arnold Ibikute, a second-round pick out of Penn State, he did get there and got a quarterback hit and is supposedly the physical pass rusher, speed rusher that they like. So he got there, he got home, and they play off of Grady is what they'll do. They'll fabricate some action off of Grady. They were so worried about Grady that Mikael Walker came free, the inside linebacker, and had the easiest sack of his career, perhaps, on Jameis. So, the attention of Grady will attract the attention, and they'll try to play off of that and get to the quarterback and, do this, stunts and so forth and twist up front to try to shake some people free. But it was a promising start. It was the first time they had 4 sacks in a game since a game against the Packers in 2018. I counted that up. That was 52 games ago. So this was the most promising pass rush we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be one of the keys to the matchup is Stafford against his defensive line or the front seven, and can he get enough time for the O line to create down the field? Because if he doesn't get enough time, you already know he's gonna be looking at Cooper Kupp, and that could be a good matchup between Cooper Kupp and AJ Terrell. So kind of a 2-parter, because I want you to tell the Rams fans who are listening, how would you describe AJ Terrell as a cornerback? I think he's very underrated. He was a second-team All-Pro last year. This guy's a stud. But also he's coming off kind of a shaky game against Michael Thomas. What did you see in that matchup? But let us know about AJ Terrell a little bit too.
Yeah, AJ's a local kid from Westlake. We've been following him for a while. Went up to Clemson, had a really, really tough game against Jamar Chase in the title game. And but that didn't deter the Falcons. They liked the way he handled himself, the way he had a short memory in that regard. So he was drafted a little bit higher than anticipated. E.J. Henderson was the top corner supposedly that year, and I think he's already on the second team. So AJ came in, had the benefit of a great, teacher in Raheem Morris, whether, things didn't work out too good for that coaching staff or him as the interim, but he was able to get a base of, in the NFL to get AJ Terrell off to a great start as a rookie. And they've been able to build on that so much so last year that they did put him on Stephon Diggs, and he handled himself, didn't get beat bad in that game. But on Sunday against the Saints, he some great routes by Michael Thomas, great route runners, and the ball. He's a great route runner, and the ball was on the money from Winston, but we're not making excuses for AJ. He was the guy in coverage and let his guy get away from him at a couple inopportune times. So he's going to come out there with a chip on his shoulder and, short memory and try to go at it with, one of the league's top receivers, probably the league's top receiver at this time.
Yeah, D, it's kind of similar what AJ Terrell's going off of week one. Like Jalen Ramsey got beat a couple of times by Stephon Diggs, so they kind of want to get that out of their memory. But last thing, D, before we let you go, I know you're a busy man, and I really appreciate the insight, but we haven't even spoken about the quarterback just yet. The new one, Marcus Mariota. I know he's not on the level of Josh Allen, but he's mobile. That could really affect the Rams. That was an issue a week ago for Bobby Wagner and the gang. But how has Marcus been doing so far in this? I don't know if it's a bridge year or what. And also, how can he get Kyle Pitts more involved? You mentioned the double teams. How can they kind of work together?
Yeah, Mariota's doing a great job of running the offense. He knows that he came from he was in Tennessee when Arthur Smith was there, so it wasn't a lot of new stuff for him. He just had to get refamiliarized with it. But they ran a lot of his stuff. The big fuss in Tennessee was he's got to get under center. We got to, run affirmation. And they got a lot of coaches fired because they wouldn't put in the pistol and the type of things that he can do. So I wasn't surprised that they, went heavy pistol against the Saints. A lot of RPOs. One thing he's going to have to get better at is hitting those on the passing part of it. It was a little wild on his passes to Kyle Pitts. He threw late to Kyle Pitts. Kyle made a great catch on the sideline, would have been about 18 yards, but the ball was late. So, his timing and rhythm, that's going to be off early because they don't play in the preseason anymore. He threw one bomb to Pitts. That was their one play together in the exhibition season. And, we see early on teams working their rhythm and timing out. And so I think the rhythm and timing of the passing game, as they get that timed up better, he'll be able to get Kyle the ball. And then, you got to come with the pick plays and rub routes and all things like that. If he's going to be attracting a lot of attention, then you got to move him around and let him stun people from different positions and so forth. So they know what to do with getting Kyle Pitts loose and getting that game timed up. So, those are some of the things that Mariota and Kyle will have to work on moving forward.
Well, D, we really appreciate the knowledge. I'm excited. I'm amped for this matchup now. Rams-Falcons Sunday, week 2 at SoFi Stadium. Thank you for coming on for the inside. You're the man. You've done it for a long time. D, Orlando Ledbetter, Falcons beat reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Really appreciate your time.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on the House of Horns. It's been a pleasure.
Victor, we did not tell any lies. That interview with D. Orlando Ledbetter. I like saying the name. I know it's a long name, but when I nail the long name, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna show you that I know it. So it's like when I remember Tua Tagovailoa. I like to say that a lot. So D. Orlando Ledbetter, he dropped the knowledge, and there was a lot to kind of unpack there. And I was just there listening. I'm like, man, this guy knows what he's talking about the Falcons. I went on his show too, the Bow Tie Chronicles. Hopefully I did it this, close to similar of dropping some knowledge, but I don't think I did. And one takeaway I had from D was like, because you're really mentioning this, and I've been checking out some of the highlights, especially with the offensive line for them and how they use Cordarrelle Patterson and how he's moving. And you were saying that, man, these guys were looking great. And then this is where the beat reporter side comes in. D is like, they were good, but I've been around this team for a long time. Let's slow it down. It was one game. So that's kind of that one, cautious beat reporter side where like, how the team is, it's 1 week. So we'll see how they do. But if they have that offensive line going and you could just like, use Cordarrelle Patterson in so many different ways, that could be a problem for the Rams on Sunday.
Yeah, and I even asked him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm impressed." And I was like, "Okay, but let's pull it down a little bit, and then we'll see how it is against the Rams because they're a bit." But it was the Saints defense. We know what the Saints defense is capable of. But now with Aaron Donald, it's a whole new ball game. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they ran for 200 yards. And we're gonna see like if they were, and it was supposed to be like one of their weakest units, and they go out there even after Damian Williams gets hurt, they just run the ball. Their rookie running back, their big bruiser out of BYU. I don't want to say his name because I'm gonna butcher it, but yeah, even with him not being active, they still ran for over 200 yards with Cordarrelle Patterson. So it'll be interesting how they use those two running backs, especially if Damian Williams doesn't go. So he gave us a lot there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm really excited about this matchup. That's why I'm glad we're going to talk about player matchups in a bit because they're just out of nowhere. This Falcons team just looks like they're going to be a fun team to watch. Like, yeah, they might not go to the playoffs. Like they'll win maybe 6 to 7 games, but when you throw on the Game Pass or whatever it's called nowadays, Victor NFL Plus, whatever it's called,
Yeah.
like you don't mind watching the Falcons, right? You just told me you watched them twice, like because they have Drake London, the rookie who stood out. Cordarrelle Patterson is like his position as player that makes it fun. You have Kyle Pitts, and you're waiting for his domination because he has all this talent. And then Marcus Mariota, I know he's had his ups and downs, but he still has the mobility and he can make plays for you happen. And then they're I got a cat here disturbing me real quick. And they have an All-Pro on the secondary, AJ Terrell, who we'll get into, and then Grady Jarrett, also their pass rusher. So they have talent, and then the best thing about it, they're not born because Arthur Smith is such a creative play caller. So this is a matchup that when I wanted to talk to D, I kind of kept them longer because I'm like I want to talk about this guy and that guy and that guy. So the Falcons have some talent, man.
Yeah. Are you doing a story on Drake London?
I think I might, or it'll be more of my Sunday advance story. It won't be particularly about him, but it will be about how does his Rams defense recover from getting pretty much whooped by the Bills. A very dominant offense. This is not the same thing, but they present a lot of challenge, like for the reasons I just listed. So I'm gonna go into Drake London. I actually spoke to Arthur Smith in the morning. He spoke to the Rams beat reporters, and he had a lot of good things to say about Drake London. And then he kind of was, he wanted to know stuff about him because I kept saying this guy went to Moore Park High School. He grew up in LA, and he's like, I heard he was a good basketball player. Do you know about that? I'm like, oh well, Arthur Smith. I did some research on that. I wrote a story at the combine. He was a double machine. He was a forward. He did the dirty work, and that's why he's big. He's a big bruising wide receiver of the game. So there is sort of a story coming, but in my Sunday story, I'll get more in depth. It's Drake London. It's just hard because there's so many LA players around the league that you can't get to everybody, when you're covering the Rams. But I think Drake London deserves a little love.
Yeah, it's great when we can just segue into a new segment that we have for everybody. Since you're talking about Drake London, he had a good fantasy showing. So Gil, we're in the process of kind of tinkering with it. So our new segment on House of Horn here is going to be the fantasy and betting spotlight for our fans here who tune in. That way we can kind of have a little fun. We don't want to make it all serious and just give you segments that are straightforward, but we also want to have a little fun. So let me start off with the betting line. We have the Rams as a 10.5 point favorite. They open up. They're the over under it's 46.5, and of course the money line is minus 550 if you bet on the Rams. How do you see this game going in terms of betting for the public?
Yeah, I think the 10.5 is pretty big. A team that is dealing with injuries and offensive line shuffling for the Rams. Like I get the Rams should be the favorite. I don't know it should be that big. I know the Falcons are going across the country and they're a young team and they could really, get into, angry defending champion Rams. We're like, okay, we lost against the Bills kind of thing. They're thinking we got to get back, and then they just go and crush the Falcons. That could happen, but like I mentioned, I like this Falcons team. I think they're going to be like that mosquito that's just in your face a lot. You can't get rid of them, but eventually you'll get them. That's what it feels like with them. So 10.5 just feels too big of a difference for me. The Rams won't have Van Jefferson. We already saw what happened with the wide receivers. Like they have to figure out what's going on with Allen Robinson. They got to figure out the running back rotation. They got to figure out they're shuffling on the offensive line. The defense too. Like they had a lot of things to figure out with Bobby Wagner being the play caller there in the middle. Jalen Ramsey didn't have the best game. He has to go and now maybe possibly guard a Drake London. I know it's not Stephon Diggs, but still it could be. And then a Kyle Pitts too, who plays like a wide receiver. So it's a lot of problems for both sides or all three phases. I can't forget special teams. I always forget about them. I shouldn't.
Yeah.
But it's just a big difference for me. And then the over under, I think the people in Vegas or wherever they are now, because betting is going
Yeah.
worldwide.
Yep.
I think they know that one because that's a tough one. I was trying to do some quick math in my head. I'm like, it won't be a shootout, but it feels like a 24-21 game where the Rams edge it out. But then I do the math, it's right there. Right? It's like 45 points. So I will take the under because I still feel like the Rams have to figure it out. And I think the Rams defense, because they had a bunch of turnovers, they created a lot of takeaways last week. I think they'll figure it out sooner than the offense to control the Falcons offense, and the Rams offense has to figure it out. So I think I would take the under on that one. And the money line minus, it's not even worth it for me because football, you never know. It could be an upset, but minus 550, nah, I'm not touching that.
Yeah, no, for me, I'm with you on terms of how big the spread is here, 10.5 points. You're taking the Falcons here, like yeah, like you said, they're coming across the country, but I after watching them, and I know it's just 1 week, but I really like what Arthur Smith is doing with that team in terms of offensively. I think they'll stay with the Rams and they'll keep it close. I don't think it's gonna be like 3 or 5 points. I think it'll be between 7 and 10, somewhere in there, like 9, 7, and 9-point win for the Rams. And I think one of the things I've learned, especially early on in terms of the over under early in the season when it's warmer, I think you try to go up for the over because that's when you get a lot of points in the early season, because the Vegas or the betting the big shark people who know about this, they try to go, they're still adjusting to see where they can put the over under, and usually right now you want to hit the over at this point of the season. Later on is when you start worrying about the under, but right now I think 46 and a half is pretty good to go for the over here. So that would be my the way I would go. But the other thing we wanted to kind of give you guys is we're gonna go over some of the players for the Rams and kind of give you where they're at in terms of for this week. In fantasy wise, we're gonna talk about Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Darrell Henderson, Cam Akers, and then maybe depending on the matchup, we'll give you guys the Rams defense. So as of right now on a Wednesday, as we're recording, Gilbert, Matt Stafford is projected to finish 12th as a QB 12 and 20 points. Do you think with a projected point total of 20 points, do you see him going over that, or is he going to be under that?
Man, yeah, he didn't look the best last week, but it's not the Bills defense, it's the Falcons defense. And yeah, he'll probably have to deal with it with a pesky AJ Terrell and Cooper Kupp, but I would think Cooper Kupp will have his moments. So let's see. And doing the math, I think he'll have 2 touchdowns throwing. That's already 12 points, and you can throw in the yards. You know what? I'm gonna be trying to be generous here, and I think Stafford needs a bounce back game. He'll go over 20. It won't be anything crazy. Maybe it'll be like 24 points, but I think I think he'll have a clean game. Because he had 3 interceptions last week. You can't keep piling up on that. So I think he'll be efficient. It will be kind of it's okay, but not the worst kind of thing. So I'll say he'll get like 20, 24 points, and I'll take that over for Stafford.
I hope you're right because I have him in our fantasy league. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm hoping he goes over the 20. I'll just leave it at that. Cooper Kupp, he's a wide receiver 2 behind Justin. Depending on what side you're looking at, he's either 1 or 2, and he's projected to be around 19 to 20 points. Does he go over or is he under with facing AJ Terrell?
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough matchup. And then it's like it feels very low for him, but I don't want to always make him like he's gonna be a 30-point guy. He had like 31 points last week, something like that, something crazy. But I think for him it just feels like it's light, and I will go over, and I think he'll it won't be anything crazy again. I think AJ Terrell is gonna be a tough matchup, and they're gonna try to get Allen Robinson involved. I feel like which might take away some targets from him, but I think this guy is still capable of at least getting if you're in a PPR format, he'll definitely get 20 for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna say under just because I think they're gonna try to run the ball. They're gonna try to help that offensive line, that banged up offensive line. That's what we'll talk about later on with some of the other segments we have coming up. But I just think that they're gonna try and the whole Allen Robinson thing. I mean, I'm sure McVay and Stafford heard all the noise, so I think they're gonna try to spread the ball around, and I think Cooper Cup is gonna fall right under like maybe like 17, 16 points. All right, let's get to the running backs. Daryl Henderson is projected to be RB22, and he's around 13 or 14 points, depending on your fantasy format that you have on your league. And then Cam Akers is RB38, and he's going around projected to be around 7 points. So, can you give me? Do you think they go over or under for both guys?
Remind me one more time on the numbers that you said. Was it
Henderson is projected to be around 13 or 14 points,
okay?
and then Akers around 7.
Yeah, it's funny. I bet you it was. I bet you it was the other way around a week ago.
Yep.
Uh, I'll go under on Henderson. I think this will be the Cam week. You know how you're saying with Cooper, they're gonna probably emphasize more Robinson. So I will go Cam over. And it just feels like after what he had as a zero stinker game, like it feels like 8 is a lot for him. But I think he can get to 8 to 10 kind of range. And yeah, I'll go over with Cam and under Henderson.
Yeah, after what you told me, I see before we started recording, I had Henderson going over, but now after what you told me, I think it's going to be under and then Cam over. It's going to be they're going to have like the same amount of carries and yards right around there. I think you can see about 60 to 50 yards for each. So that's where I have it. And then lastly, the Rams defense. Are they a streamer this week? Some sites have them projected in the top 7. Some of the ones I saw were top 5. So, do
Mm.
you see? Are they a stream option this week?
Yeah.
The Rams defense.
Yeah, I wonder how they did with the points last week because they still got like 4 takeaways. So maybe it wasn't the worst thing, but they did allow 31 points. I think they'll figure out a way to at least, limit, Kyle Pitts and maybe like let Drake London beat them. So it will be kind of a slow approach, I feel like. So I think they are a good option. It's a young team. The Rams are on 10 days rest and they're at home. So I think the if you want it, if you have the Rams and you feel like you need a team to start on defense, this is a good option. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's early in the season, it's kind of hard to gauge which defense is going to be really good, and so you're just trying to work the matchups right now. Even with how good I think the Falcons move the ball, they have 3 fantasy players on their team. I think that they'll be able to create a couple turnovers here, and yeah, they're a top 10 streaming option here if you're looking for a defense to stream. I mean, I'm sure some of your fantasy colleagues probably dropped the Rams defense, so you might be able to pick them up, especially after how they looked against the Bills. So if they're an option on your waiver wire, go ahead and pick them up.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm glad we got some. Hopefully, it helps people in their fantasy football and with some betting.
Yeah, well, you won. I know you were you were up in high spirits this whole week, the Sunday and Monday after you won. Let's
Yeah.
get to let's get to some Rams versus Falcons player matchups. Who's your player matchup to watch this week?
Yeah, I think I've been saying it all week, so I'll just take the obvious: AJ Terrell versus Cooper Cup. And last week I let you have Stephon Diggs and Jalen Ramsey for that matchup there, Victor. So I'll take this wide receiver corner matchup. And I think AJ Terrell is a really good cornerback. He's underrated. Hopefully, people are starting to know the name. Second team All Pro last year, and I think it's only his third year. I forget. I think it is third. So he was a pick that was a surprise to many people out of Clemson. Like, why are the Falcons taking him in the first round? And he's balled out, and that's good scouting right there. Like sometimes you people get surprised, but if you scout them, you develop them, they flourish, and that's what AJ Terrell has done. Now the downside, he had some bad moments against Michael Thomas, giving up 2 touchdowns there, and D was very honest about AJ Terrell. Like, yeah, it wasn't his best game, so yeah, you gotta forget and move on. It's kind of similar to what happened with Jalen Ramsey and Stephon Diggs. You gotta forget and move on. These wide receivers will get you. But a nice little challenge for Cooper Cup. I wish I would have spoken to Cooper Cup today in the locker room. We didn't get him. We got Allen Robinson instead. Maybe we'll get him tomorrow on Thursday to talk about this matchup out because I want to hear what he says about AJ Terrell. But if AJ Terrell manages to have a good matchup with Cooper and he's able to just limit him a little bit, like, okay, now it's time to do something, Allen Robinson. Now it's time for you, Stafford, to not lock in on Cooper Cup. It's time for you to make something work with Allen Robinson. This is a big free agent acquisition. So if they're doing their thing and they're fighting it out, other people got to step up. And I'm talking about also Tutu Atwell, Ben Skoranek. I don't know. They keep trying Ben Skoranek, but it's just not the answer. I think Tutu's going to get more opportunities because he's a second-round pick. But when he has one target and has like 8 snaps, that's not a good sign either. So I think they need Cooper to step up with AJ Terrell because after that, there's a lot of uncertainty, Victor.
Yeah, no, and I agree. For me, it's gonna. I was trying to decide whether I wanted to have one guy from the Falcons and one guy from the Rams, but I think I'm gonna go with Grady Jarrett against that banged up offensive
It's a good
line.
one.
Just having watched that game, just seeing how they use him, they moved him around. He got a sack playing inside, and then he got half a sack playing outside. And so, with Brian Allen being out now and having to move Shelton into center, and we don't know what's going to happen with No Boom yet. I hope he plays, but we don't know at this moment. I think containing him, maybe double teaming Grady Jarrett, is going to be a key for here for me, like a player to watch. I think we need to spotlight him, on the Falcons defense and see how that offensive line for the Rams holds up against them. One of the things I noticed is they like to blitz a lot, so that'll be another thing. Is they need to be on assignment there, on alert. Make sure everybody's picking up stunts and stuff like that.
Yeah. What do we have next? X Factor? Is that what it is, Victor?
Yeah, let's go with X Factors.
Okay.
Who's your X Factor?
I want to go. I think I might have said this last week, or maybe it was for something. No, it was from a matchup to watch, but he will be my X Factor. Like, I know some people weren't happy with his performance. I didn't think it was the worst performance ever or whatever. They were making it seem like it was. But Bobby Wagner's debut, I know he had some tough moments to wrapping up Josh Allen and bringing him down. And Bobby Wagner was he was just as mad at himself. He hated that they converted 9 of 10 third downs. He wanted to do more. So Bobby Wagner's going to have a lot on his plate, especially with Kyle Pitts. I'm not saying he's going to be the one in charge of Kyle Pitts. That'll be a problem, but you got to at least be aware of him and help out. It's going to take a lot of effort to contain Kyle Pitts, but this guy, he could do everything. He could play wide. Maybe it won't even get to a point where he's going to be in the middle of the field because he plays wide receiver. He's on the outside. Just throw the ball at him. But say he gets in the middle, doing like regular tight end things and playing the middle of the field a lot. It's going to be up to Bobby Wagner and play coverage, and we'll see what they do. Maybe they have somebody else shadow him because he does play like a wide receiver. I know like what is it? Sometimes like the Chargers like to play Derwin James as a tight end. Could a safety help out? With Kyle Pitts. Maybe you want a cornerback. Regardless of what they do with Kyle Pitts, there, Bobby Wagner will still have some kind of say to help out there, especially if he's in the middle of the field. And then when you have to call the defense, you have to maybe be a pass rusher sometimes. You have to be a run stopper. You got to play the middle of the field in coverage. It's a lot. So there's an opportunity here for Bobby Wagner to control the defense. Everybody settle down. You keep an eye on Kyle Pitts. I'll get him on this one and that one. So just to see him, have a bounce back game is my X factor here for Bobby Wagner.
And that's a good one too because Mariota runs a lot of RPOs.
Yep, that's another
They're
one.
running a lot of stuff from when he was in Oregon. So this is actually a good pick. I really like this one, especially having to cover those outside zones and stuff like that. It's a good pick. For me, I'm gonna go with Allen Robinson. Like I talked about it earlier. Like I think with all the noise that came in, we saw a bunch of memes about Stafford and then also McVay, getting asked about only getting 2 targets. I think they're gonna get him the ball this week, and I think he's gonna be an X factor for them, especially if like one of the things you talked about with AJ Terrell and Cooper Kupp. I think it's a better matchup for AJ Terrell going up against Cooper Kupp because he's a smaller guy. Michael Thomas is kind of a bigger guy. He was able to overpower him. So I think I think Allen Robinson is gonna go up against the former Raider. Oh, why am I blanking on his name? From he used to play with the Chargers, Hayward. He's
Yeah,
gonna go up against Hayward, so that'll be a good matchup for Allen Robinson, and so that's who I'm going with as my X factor. And finally, let's get to the keys of the game. What are your keys for the Rams to win this game?
yeah, you kind of took mine, but it was a good to help me with the point here. But I guess maybe I don't know. I have a lot of keys on. My mind is wandering because yeah, I wanted to talk about Marcus Mariota and keeping him in the pocket. Don't let him burn you. Like I know again, I keep saying he's not Josh Allen, but he can still run, and that's the biggest reason why they converted 9 of 10 third downs, which is crazy to say. So my key to the game is like, don't let the RPOs burn you. Don't bite on the play action because you're just worried about the threat of this guy taking off. And then it doesn't help that Cordarrelle Patterson does a lot of things too. Like, he'll still play wide receiver if he wants to. So they have so many options, and when you're playing the option game, it could really bite you if you guess wrong. So just have a lot of discipline. Make sure you're sniffing out the right play and have a lot of communication, because Marcus Mariota, could have a moment where he burns you for a 40-yard run down the field. So just contain him. It doesn't have to be Bobby Wagner alone. Everybody on the defense has to keep an eye on him and make sure that he doesn't extend plays. Make him beat you with his arm in the pocket and see how it goes from there.
No, for me, it's that offensive line. I just want to see McVay, what he does with that offensive line. Is he gonna give them help? Is he gonna use heavy personnel? Are we gonna see multiple tight ends? Like, how does he protect that offensive line, especially at no boom isn't able to go? And so for me, that's the key. Like, if they need to run the ball with that offensive line, don't use a lot of pass plays. If you do, do they keep a running back in, stuff like that? So that'll be interesting for me. Like, that's my key. Protect that offensive line. For McVay to protect that offensive line is my key. Prediction time. How do you see this game, and what's the final score?
Yeah, I guess we're both 0-1, right? After last week, what happened with the Bills? It's we need a win here, Victor. But I keep saying that I really like the Falcons. I think they're an impressive team. They're a fun team, but they're not ready yet to be like a real threat for the Rams. So again, I don't think the Rams are going to cover the 10.5 points. I think the Falcons are going to put up a good fight, but I think the Rams get their first win. It's still going to be a lot of question marks. It's going to be a clunky game for them. They got to figure it a whole lot of. They got to figure out a bunch of things because, like you mentioned, the offensive line is just in shambles right now with injuries and guys making career starts for the first time. So it won't be the best or the most well executed game for the offense and the defense. We still don't know how they're going to respond. So with these great talented players on the Falcons, so I will go 24-20. The Rams win by 4 points. Maybe they're up. Maybe it feels like they're up by a touchdown most of the game, but maybe it'll get close towards the end.
Wow. I also have it as a 4 point game. I have it 28-24. I just think that the Rams are going to bounce back. I think they'll get off to a big lead, and then the Falcons will kind of get some garbage points at the end and make it close, but it'll just be, they'll be able to pull away at the end, and they'll cruise and get their first win of the season.
We'll see. I'm sure hopefully we made a lot of Rams fans happy with these picks. But then again, what do we know? We were wrong last week. But then again, a
Yeah.
lot of people were picking the Rams. I was actually surprised how many people picked the Bills. So, and then not just the Bills winning. Like that's not really too much of a surprise. It's just the way they dominated that game. So, yeah, it was a surprise to everybody. But you would think they could handle a Falcons team that's young. So. Victor, we did it. We got through another game preview. If you like these game previews, make sure you comment. You let us know. You subscribe. We're trying to grow this channel, and I know it's early in the process, but for those who have subscribed, thank you for that. Hopefully, you're enjoying some of these press conference videos, these locker room videos. That's what we're going to provide here. I'm in the locker room, so I'm going to try to get you guys some access with that also through some videos. But I want some engagement, people. So you get some comments going. Let us know what we can do to improve the show. We're going to have a post-game show after the Falcons game, a Rams-Falcons. So hopefully maybe like an hour or so after the game, I'll get on the live with Victor. And if you guys are available and want to ask us questions, comment there on Twitter. We'll look out for it, or on the YouTube. So, Victor, with that, do you have anything you want to promote or any final thoughts on this week 2 episode game preview?
No, just to go check out your stories and, be on the lookout. We're recording on Wednesday night, so there's a lot of more interviews that Gilbert is going to have for you guys. But that's it. You know what time it is.
Yeah, no, thank you for always plugging my stories, Victor. I always forget that. But yeah, I have a story right now in the Orange County Register on Allen Robinson and Cam Akers needing to get more involved, and how the Rams are going to try to figure that out. As you know, I spent more time with Cam Akers than I did with Robinson, and people are not too worried about him. And then I think hopefully I have a story on the Cooper Kupp AJ Terrell matchup. I'm waiting for Cooper Kupp to talk to us. He will do it. He's a very professional stand-up guy. I'm not worried about that. And then I would probably do a story on Jalen Ramsey, who speaks Friday, and how he needs a bounce back game. And Jalen Ramsey is a very honest guy. He's emotional, but he'll keep it real. So I'm excited for that interview. But on that note, again, subscribe and read my stories also. I got to remember that. But on that note, it's time to get out of here, Victor. Ya nos vamos. Pues, vámonos.